Sewage flooded my yard for months. A year later, the city admitted fault and I got reimbursed more than I spent fixing it. The situation has finally resolved after a prolonged struggle. It may not classify as exact retribution, but it certainly feels like it was on my behalf. A brief background: I purchased a home around 5 years ago, and within 3 years, it experienced flooding 3 times an occurrence that had never happened in the 4 decades prior. Thank you, climate change. After the third incident, my wife and I were in a position to sell the house at a loss and relocate. We searched extensively, convinced we found our perfect home. Once we had settled into our new residence for approximately 6 months, we encountered an unusual issue. Every time there was a heavy rainfall, our bathtub would fill with sewage, and the toilets would cease to function. We promptly contacted a plumber, who was quite helpful and informed us that our sewer lines had sustained damage between our house and the city main line. Although we could attempt spot repairs, it appeared that a complete replacement would be necessary. That was a tough pill to swallow, especially after making a sizable investment in the new home and taking a financial hit on the old one. We instructed them to keep expenses minimal. Upon digging, they discovered that the line was severely damaged, described lightly as broken. It had nearly disintegrated. The total cost for replacement was about $5,000. It was an inconvenient time, but we proceeded. After they excavated as much as possible, I received a call from the plumbers. They revealed that the damage was so severe that they could not pinpoint where the residential line connected to the city's main line, referred to as the tap. While the homeowner is responsible for the residential line, the city oversees the tap as well as the main line. I asked the plumber what steps we needed to take next. He explained we would have to obtain city plans and dig further to locate the tap. More excavation meant additional costs. After 2 weeks of waiting, I simply wanted to use my own bathroom and take a shower. Therefore, we agreed on proceeding with the digging. They excavated a 4x10 hole, but found nothing. We double-checked the city's plans, which indicated we had dug in the correct location. Now it was time to engage with the city. Following the directions, we called the 311 hotline and waited on hold for 3 hours. Eventually, a city official sent us the same plans we had already received. We called again to inform them that we had already dug in that area with no tap found. Frustrated with the lack of progress, my wife took it upon herself to visit City Hall. After spending a day there, waiting for someone, she finally met with an official, whom I will refer to as Richard. Richard printed the same plans we had and insisted we needed to excavate in the indicated area. My wife, using her phone, pointed out, "Look, it's not there." He muttered to himself, took out a pen, and arbitrarily marked a new spot on the plans, indicating the actual location. He suggested the residential line curved significantly from the original drawings, placing it about 10 feet west of the previous site. It was obvious he wanted to dispose of her quickly and had fabricated information to expedite the meeting. The plumbers returned to dig a second 4x10 hole, adding to our costs, and surprise, surprise, the tap was still absent. Another wasted vacation day was spent at City Hall dealing with Richard. By this time, I insisted that it was crucial for a city representative to come out and accurately mark the location of the tap. They eventually visited, and I took another vacation day to be present. To their credit, they investigated the sewer, dug around, and identified a new spot situated between our 2 previous holes. Finally, we had a credible location. However, when the plumbers returned to dig a third hole, they still did not uncover the tap. By this stage, our entire backyard was in shambles, dirt piles everywhere, the lawn dead, and the trees gone. It was a disaster. Our newly acquired house's backyard was effectively ruined. Following another exhausting visit to Richard's office, and yet another vacation day sacrificed, we were enraged. We maintained composure but firmly argued that it was evident we were not connected to the city's main line. How could we have known there was no tap for 6 months? In the yard, a significant dirt mound had formed a landscaped area, which had absorbed the sewage produced solely by the 2 of us. However, during heavy rains, it became overwhelmed, leading to sewage backing up into our bathtub and toilets. Richard refused to accept accountability, but did arrange for the contractor who had performed previous work in our neighborhood to come by. When the contractor arrived, I learned everything. 2 years earlier, while the previous homeowner was making improvements and was not residing there, the main sewer line had been replaced. Essentially, the new pipe was inserted into the old pipe underground, with new taps being installed for each residence. Since no one was living at the house, the contractor informed the city that our property had not been serviced. I was livid. This had dragged on for 3 months and cost over $20,000, plus countless hours and vacation days wasted, all due to Richard's negligence. Remember how my first house had flooded 3 times? I learned from that experience to document every interaction. Once we recognized communication with the city was necessary, we recorded everything, every phone call, every email, and a video of the contractor explaining the situation, all obtained legally, as my state mandates consent for recordings. The contractor installed a proper tap, allowing me to take my first shower at home in 3 months. With the tap finally in place, I was ready to take action. I visited Richard's office once more with all the documentation in hand, wishing to file a claim. While I was prepared to cover the cost of the residential line since it was my responsibility, I sought reimbursement from the city for the unnecessary excavations. I believed I had a solid case. Our city regulations required that claims be filed before commencing any work, alongside 3 formal estimates. None of this had been done, and Richard promptly denied my claim. Leaving his office in a state of shock, I felt completely defeated. Yet, as I headed home and spoke with my wife, I recalled that some of my friends are lawyers. It seemed possible that one of them could offer assistance or know someone who could. However, I was unaware of the concept of sovereign immunity in my state, which essentially means you can attempt to sue the city or state, but the case will be dismissed immediately, something Richard was keenly aware of. No reputable attorney was willing to assist me since they knew I would just be throwing money away. I felt entirely hopeless. Nearly a year elapsed. As the loans I had taken out were about to become due, my panic grew. The situation had become paralyzing. I had cut off all communication with Richard and his office, and my attempts to reach his supervisor went unanswered. After one last try to return to City Hall, I was denied a meeting with Richard. Ultimately, I decided to contact my council member in a final attempt. I provided a summary of the situation along with all my evidence. I had no expectations. An hour after sending the email, my phone rang. It was my council member, and she was furious about our treatment. She had a meeting scheduled with the head of public works later that week and did not guarantee anything, but promised to advocate for us vigorously. After the meeting, my council member called me on her way back to the office. The head of public works had taken full responsibility for the oversight and wanted all relevant receipts. This included expenses for the plumber, vacation pay stubs from the time we lost, phone logs documenting our extended wait times, and quotes from the landscaper to restore the backyard. She assured me that she would gather everything upon returning to her office. That was approximately 3 weeks ago. Yesterday, I met with my council member once again at her office. Me, thank you so much. My wife and I cannot repay you for everything you have done. Her, it was my pleasure. We exchanged small talk for a while. Her, here is a check for what you are owed. Me, this is fantastic. We can finally pay off the loan and hire someone to restore our yard. Wait, this amount exceeds what we need. Her, you forgot to account for emotional distress. I included that as well. Oh, and if you ever face issues again, you can skip Richard. He no longer works there. Just come directly to me. I've become close friends with the head of public works. Me, oh my goodness, you are genuinely the most amazing person I know. If I can do anything to help you. Her, elections are coming this fall. Perhaps you could make sure to vote. I returned home, settled my debts, and scheduled the landscapers to come next week. Additionally, I am volunteering for her re-election campaign. Thank you for taking the time to read my story. Edit: to clarify the situation, I offered to pay my portion, $5,000, and requested compensation only for the extra work due to the lack of a tap, $15,000. Since Richard rejected this, I managed to get him dismissed and secured nearly $30,000 for the extra work I endured, as well as time lost and emotional distress. Edit: 2, I asked my council member if I could share her name, but she prefers not to have it linked on Reddit. I plan to feature her on her website during campaign season. She is running for re-election in 2024. Edit 3 new grass is planted. It took a full day, but our backyard is revitalized. The dogs absolutely love it.